Again, now South Africa remains the most unequal country in the world. That's according to the latest report by the World Bank, which pegs race as one of the determining factors. It shows that 10% of the population, mostly whites, own more than 80% of the wealth. That's attributed to the legacy of apartheid and colonialism. The report also paints a bleak picture about neighboring states, Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, and Namibia, although they are slightly above South Africa from that list of 1 out of 164 countries. Well, let's unpack this further. I'm joined now by Francoise Marie-Nelly. She's the country director of the World Bank here in our region of Southern Africa. Marie, good afternoon, and thank you very much for your time. South Africa is number 1 out of 164 countries. Has South Africa ever been in a better position recently? Let's start there.
Well, I think that, first of all, just to tell you that inequality is a tough issue. It's a very complex issue. And since we are talking of South Africa, we have to recognize that South Africa has made a lot of effort. In fact, when we look at expenditure supporting the fight against inequality in health education, it's quite significant. However, as you said, progress has been very slow since we have a reduction of 1% from 68 to 67, in a large period. So it is difficult, and if I could maybe provide you some key pointers to that. First to me is that, sorry? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was saying it was just a general opening question. I just wanted to understand if South Africa, where was South Africa before it was number 1, which is the worst position it can be out of these 164 countries. Looks like, things are getting worse. So I said in my introduction, race is one of the determining factors, but one would have hoped that it would be different nearly 30 years after democracy.
Indeed, South Africa is still the highest, and it has been really difficult to tackle that. I just wanted to say that, this is one factor, but I wanted to put it in a broader context to say that why is it so difficult in South Africa? It's precisely because of the starting conditions, so that you understand, inequality is determined by by the well-being and the income that people are generating. And you see that there is one element that we call inequality of opportunities, which is the condition of the people, of the citizen at birth, where they were born, what is the condition of their parents, their gender, and so forth. And it's really, we see that this is moving from one generation to the next. And even if you put some significant effort, it makes it quite difficult, to change. And I just wanted to stress, this first point in terms of the conditions of inequality from, as you said, 25 years ago up to now. Yeah.
And what about education as a contributing factor?
So, yes. So other contributing factor, education is very important. I think that our report shows that indeed, education and labor market are the most 2 contributing factors. And in fact, if you will, it's linked with these inherited circumstances that I mentioned to you. Because if you are in a rural area where you do not have access, to internet or good condition of education, you are less likely, to acquire the skills that are needed for this changing environment. So education is very important, and it's not just the quantity of money that is being put in education, but the quality of education to ensure that the learners are being prepared and can do, this intergenerational mobility. Let me give you a good example to show you how this is important. I met not long ago a young lady who is a director of statistics in a very important research center in Durban. When I started to discuss with her, she mentioned that she was coming from a rural area where she barely had the incentive, to learn math and science. Yet, she managed to have the opportunity to be incentivized, by someone, and then she was supported by this research center. And today, she has a PhD in statistics. She's a director of statistics As a result, she has broken the cycle of poverty and inequality. And this is why, as you said, education is so important if you manage to put, the good quality for the disadvantaged children. We saw, again, with COVID that a number of learners were not able to access to education for the mere reason that they did not have access to internet. And in that case, they lost quite a few months and days of learning, whereas the ones who were able to be connected via internet and have access would keep, the level of learning and then reach their goal. So that means that if you do not have proper access to basic services, you actually perpetuate this cycle of poverty and inequality.
Yeah, and when you speak about the perpetuation of that inequality, I'm also thinking about skills, I'm thinking about the labor market, therefore I'm also thinking about the income inequality. And we know that, survey after survey, for example, not just black South Africans, but also women, especially black women, are the ones who are bearing the brunt of income inequality.
Absolutely. And in fact, what our report is showing is that at equal conditions, women earn 30% less than men. So this is exactly what I was mentioning when I was saying the inherited circumstances compound the problem. So, and if you don't have the proper skills, again, you cannot compete because the market has become such a skill market that there are few resources, few educated people to access to this market. Hence, you have the challenge of increasing, the competition and increasing the wages for this higher-end market, whereas a low-end market stay, unserved. So again, you perpetuate, this cycle of inequality and poverty. Hence, the importance of really tackling the quality of basic services and also education for the disadvantaged, so that they can actually break the cycle of intergenerational mobility, because we see that it is very low. But with the example of non-class that I gave you, if we manage to bring them, because we have so many non-class potentials that are there that do not have access to this quality education, and hence perpetuate, this cycle of inequality, and explain why South Africa is not making sufficient stride in that direction.
Thank you very much. It's a bleak picture indeed. Thank you for your time. That's Francoise Marie-Nelly. She's the country director of the World Bank in Southern Africa. She was talking to us there virtually from Pretoria.